What's up, guys? Welcome to an installment of Warrior Wednesday with the Toxic Man. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Secretary of Defense Chris Miller. He recently left the cabinet. He was Trump's last acting Secretary of Defense before Biden was inaugurated. And Chris Miller is an interesting case study. He's interesting to look at in that he's not your typical warrior. He's not the cookie cutter major from the special forces that doesn't necessarily want to evolve with the times. He wanted to be a little more innovative. He understood the need for change in the special forces unit that he commanded. So Miller's men, they're known as, they call it, true believers. They're ones that believed in unconventional warfare. They took the traditional knowledge in fighting and they threw it out the window. And this was really something that started to evolve as we were leading up to the days, the days right after 9/11. So obviously Miller was working in this mindset, and he got to put it into action when we were attacked on 9/11. So just a few days after the 9/11 attacks, Colonel John Mulholland was the commander of the 5th Special Forces. He sent Miller and his guys, Miller was a major at the time, to the Special Operations Central Command Center, which was in Central Asia, and it kind of bleeds back over to the Middle East. So from there, Miller had to kind of explain to them why unconventional warfare would work in this situation against Afghanistan, Taliban, and Al-Qaeda people. Well, over in Afghanistan there are tons of mountain ranges. It's extremely rough terrain. It's very hard to get through. So to invade, it's kind of, they can get the mountaintops, they can see where you're coming, they can see the choppers coming and everything. So actually what Miller was in charge of was the invasion just a few days afterwards. So the way that they actually got in there was using horseback, which is pretty neat. Miller himself didn't get on the horseback. He commanded the guys who did. But that's unconventional. When have you heard that horses were being used in warfare in modern times? I haven't. Maybe it's happened, but I haven't. Have you? If so, just leave comments and let me know when else they've been used, because that's something that I think is really interesting. So Miller commanded the men who did the invasion because it was a good stealth way to get in. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't airplanes. It wasn't choppers. Yes, it could have done some nighttime drops through parachuting. They did, I'm sure. However, early in the campaign, to get guys in quickly and silently, horseback was the best way to do it. So Miller had to convince people that this was good. Had to convince his commanders that this was good, and it worked. It paid off. They were able to get inside quicker, and they were able to use this strategy to start fighting back against Al-Qaeda, start fighting back against the Taliban. With all of this, Miller was a key figure in the success that we had in Afghanistan. He was the Joint Special Operations Commander for Task Force Dagger. They led the fight, and when they led the fight, they were able to take those unconventional methods and use them in a way that was beneficial for the United States military. It was beneficial for the Afghan people who are actually decent people, and it helped push forward. And there is a really good book that I think you should read if you want to know a little bit more about this. It's called The Only Thing Worth Dying For, and it's written by L. Blim, and he has a more in-depth analysis about how this happened, how this occurred. Miller went on to participate in the invasion of Iraq in 2003 as a commander, and from there he was able to he was responsible for special forces in central Iraq until 2006 and 7. So while a lot of people may not know a lot about Chris Miller, it's worth digging into. It's worth looking into about him and what he's done as a commander in the special forces. He's was an intricate part of the invasion in Afghanistan and getting established to where we were able to beat back the Taliban and Al Qaeda forces and get some control there. And eventually, while it didn't directly lead to the capturing and killing of, I guess I should just say killing of Osama bin Laden, it was a step. It was a step. Everything these guys do in the military, every mission is a step. You got to win the little missions to win the big one. The mission was to knock off Osama bin Laden, which is what happened, albeit it was a while later, but it needed to be done. So it was good. It's good to see the beginnings of how did we approach this, and we approached this with Miller's unconventional warfare method. It was the best thing we could do. Afghan and Taliban, they were unconventional fighters. They were in a space where we never really dealt with before. When you look over, large theater operations throughout history, we didn't in World War I, we didn't in II, we didn't in Vietnam, nor Korea was probably about as close as it got as far as the terrain and the elements. So we have a lot to learn. And then it was more of a conventional fight for them at that point. However, when we were fighting terrorists in the Taliban and Al Qaeda, we had to do something a little bit different. And Miller was the man to do it. He brought it forth. It was his brainchild. Let's do something a little bit different. That gave him some pedigree, and it gave him a lot of knowledge of what he needed to do to be a great leader and to be a commander of warriors and be a great warrior himself. So that's just a little bit about Chris Miller. That's a little bit about who he is and what he's done for this country and how he's a warrior on different fronts. I appreciate you tuning in and listening to this, and we'll have another Warrior Wednesday. It won't be necessarily a United States military guy. We're going to go through different lists of people. I've got some written out. So I'm going to do some research, learn about them, and pass on to you some different warriors throughout history, which I think would be pretty neat to learn about. So again, I appreciate you listening and tuning in. And as always, stay toxic to the left's agenda.